Hey, my name is Shelly and welcome to my top 10 of 2024. So let's just jump right into this and get into the two honorable mentions. The first one is a reread that I did earlier, a couple months ago actually, and that is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Honestly, if I read this book for the first time this year, this would be my number one. I absolutely love this book. It is my second favorite in the Stormlight series, the first being Words of Radiance, but I did not get a chance to reread Words of Radiance this year. I hope to do it maybe next year, but we'll see. I absolutely love this first book. It is just everything to me. I love this world. I love these characters. And to jump back into it just before Wind and Truth, it was such a pleasant experience, and I'm so glad that I had a chance to reread it. Obviously, this is a 5-star. But yeah, like I said, it's a reread, so I feel like I can't put it in my top 10. Although I know a lot of people do that. There's a lot of other books I would like to talk about. The second honorable mention is The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. The reason why this is an honorable mention, it's not, oops, very shiny. The reason why this is an honorable mention and is not on the top 10 is because I had so much fun with this, but it is not a favorite. It is not a favorite series. I'm not obsessed about it. But the reason why I want to mention it is because it got me back into romantasy. My reading taste constantly changes and evolves and shifts and whatever. And right now I am in my romantasy era. So I am thankful for this book to get me back into it. My number 10 is actually a surprise to me and maybe a surprise to other people. But while I was making this list and thinking about all the books that I really loved, this book kept popping up into my head. So I feel like it should be number 10, and that is the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinniman. This is a lit RPG book series that is basically about an alien invasion and the end of the world and a guy named Carl that's running around a dungeon that's like levels of a game with a talking cat named Princess Donut. I mean, like, that sounds so freaking crazy, but it is. And I had so much fun listening to this audiobook. My husband actually got me the books for Christmas, so I actually love these covers. I think they're so spectacular. Although I haven't continued on with the series yet, this first book really started off with a bang, and I really do recommend this series. Even if you don't like lit RPG, I think it's something that you should just test out to see if you like, because it is very funny, very bizarre, violent at times, weird all the time, but an awesome fun time, and I do recommend it, especially the audiobook. So my number 9 is Green Rider by Kristen Britton. This is the first book in the Green Rider series. I read this book in the summertime, and I had so much fun with this. This book series brought me back to when I first started reading fantasy 20 years ago. It brought me back to that, probably because it was written 20 years ago, but it brought me back to that nostalgic feeling, and I had so much fun with this first book. Unfortunately, the second book didn't really hit the landing for me, but this one, I think what happens in this book will forever be implanted in my brain, and because of that, I had to include it in my top 10. So this is following a young girl named Kerrigan who is on the run in the beginning of the book, and she stumbles across a dying man who happens to be what is called a rider, and because she helps him out, she kind of gets sucked into this world where basically these riders have these like special horses, magical horses, I guess, and because they make a bond with these horses, they develop magical abilities, and kind of goes into like almost a school setting. There's so much to love about this book. Like, it's whimsical, it's creepy, it's romantic, it's got like a found family, it's got horses, like, come on, my horse girlies. Although I really love this book, I did not love the sequel, but I do plan to continue on with the rest of the Green Rider series later this year. So yes, this is my number 9. Number 8 is no stranger to my series, and that is Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long. This is the first book in the, the Winter Sea series or trilogy. I'm not sure if it's going to be it's probably a trilogy. This book, it took me by surprise. When I picked this book up, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. But what I got in this book is just everything I love about fantasy. This book is following a young woman named Mary who is a storm singer. So a storm singer is basically what it sounds like. They can sing to storms. They can sing the storms away. They can pull them back in. And to have a storm singer on your ship is so important, to the point where sometimes these storm singers are taken against their will and pretty much enslaved to live on these ships for the rest of their lives, mostly by pirates. And this world is very much like a cold Pirates of the Caribbean. So if you're missing the Pirates of the Caribbean and want to read something with a cold season, like right now is your perfect time to pick it up. The sequel is out. I have yet to read it. I'm kind of waiting till July when the third book comes out. I will be reading Black Tide Sun probably midway through the year to get to that last third book. So if you're looking for a romance in your story, but you don't want a romantasy, I do recommend checking out this series. It is so great. This book is so great and I really love it. And that's why it's my number 7. My number 6 is a recent read, and that is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I read this, I think, in November and was absolutely blown away by this gothic YA series. Like, it's a gothic horror YA series that I was not expecting to love as much as I did. This series is about a young woman named Signa, and Signa is an orphan, and she has a very unfortunate path where basically everybody in her life has died for mysterious unknown causes. I'm going to switch this over here. And because she is an heiress to a very, very big fortune, she's kind of shuffled from family member to family member because whoever houses her receives money. But after being shuffled around like all of her 19 years, she finds herself at this new home which has a lot of weird things happening, but she's very hopeful for her future, and also because she has cousins around the same age, so she's finally excited to make some friends and has hope that her dark past won't catch up with her and she can just move on with her life. But obviously that's not how it goes. There's a murder mystery involved in this. I do recommend this book series if you like Bridgerton, but also like gothic horror, because it's pretty much a perfect blend of the both, because you got the Bridgerton high society and also really creepy, horrible stuff that happens in here. I love this first book. I'm actually currently reading Foxglove, the sequel, right now, and loving that as well. I don't know if this will make a top 10 series, but it is definitely a series that I will love and possibly reread in the future. So yes, this first one, so good. Totally switching gears and genres is The Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a short little novella. This is like a sci-fantasy novella, and the way that it is written is just so good. I'm struggling to give a synopsis for this book because if I do, it'll kind of give it away. But basically, if you are looking for a epic fantasy with like a sci-fi scope or sci-fi like goggles put on it, I do recommend this. World takes place in a fantasy world, and we're following a group of people, like a party of people, that are on a mission to fight a demon. And on their way, they have to go collect a sorcerer. So they go find the sorcerer, and they find him, and he's not exactly what you think he is. And because of that aspect, that little twist made me so obsessed with this book. And because it was a really quick book, I binged it, I think, in a day. It has a lot of humor, but not in the kind of way that you think. And I had so much fun with this book, and I will be rereading this. And honestly, I missed Adrian Tchaikovsky. I need to get back into it. But yes, this is my number 6. My number 5 is kind of a cheat, and that is the entire Alona Andrews series. I read the first 7 books in the series. I do plan to continue on with the series in 2025, but the whole series itself is probably my number 5. Like, I have had so much fun reading this with my friend on Discord. It just brought me back to the days of Buffy and in the early 2000s where urban fantasies were all the rage. Like, it hits all of those notes, but it also has a lot of epic fantasy elements in it. It's mixed. It's like a perfect blend of epic fantasy meets urban fantasy. It is following Kate Daniels, who is like a PI, and in the beginning she is a mercenary. And in this world, technology and magic are like constantly fighting. So there will be magic flares, like solar flares, that'll take out all of technology, and everything that worked before doesn't work. And then magical beings such as shapeshifters, vampires, and all that stuff come out, and they're more powerful, but then another wave hits, and so technology comes back, and then those powerful beings are not as powerful as they were before. So because of that, like that going back and forth, it gave this book series a really nice twist, and I really did enjoy it. But what makes this series so freaking enjoyable is the humor and the banter and the fact that this book series is written by a husband and wife duo team. You get perspectives from both and I loved it. I love it, and I'm so excited to continue on with the series. Each book is very episodic. That's why I don't have a particular book to pick from, but as the entire series as a whole, love it. Love it, love it. My number 4 is The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. This is the book that made me go, I think I really like Joe Abercrombie, because I'm not a grimdark person. Well, I didn't used to be. I am now. But I never really gravitated towards grimdark. After reading this book and this first trilogy, although I would say that the first trilogy is probably, it won't be my favorite. I know that just saying this now because I have not read the rest of the series, but I know my taste and I know the fact that I'm going to love the rest of the series more than this first trilogy. But the fact that this first trilogy and this last book in particular made me go, I think I love this author. Although I didn't really love the story, it is the characters and the writing and the humor. And because of this book in particular, I will be reading anything Joe Abercrombie writes going forward. But as it stands, this is my number 5 because I discovered a new favorite author because of this book. My number 3 is The Will of the Many by James Islington. I had so much fun reading this with a friend of mine. I heard a lot about this book and it was very hyped, and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to like it as much as everybody else because they keep comparing it to Red Rising, and I'm not the biggest Red Rising fan. And I have read The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington before. I was kind of like iffy on it. I still need to complete that series. That's a priority for 25, but I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this. And then I got into it, and then I started reading it, and I became obsessed. This book, and I don't know if it's intentional, but this book reminded me of Harry Potter so much. And I don't think anybody really talks about it, but yes, it has like that same kind of trope where you're following a young orphan that finds himself in this magical school, and this school is very dangerous and there's a lot of things going against him, and he has a mysterious past, and because of his mysterious past, he could have a target on his head. That all reminded me of Harry Potter. I do understand why this book is compared to Red Rising because the world and like the magic system and all that stuff is very much inspired by the Roman Empire, hence even the columns here. This would have been my number 2, but I did find that the pacing suffered a little bit and I wanted a little bit more from the main character. So that's the reason why it's number 3 and not number 2. But overall, I really, really need the sequel, and I probably do plan to reread this in 25. So my next book I finished on the last day of the year. Literally, I think I finished on the 31st, and that is The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. I'm going to put this down because it's very shiny, so I'll just put a little thing up. So I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this book because I have heard mixed things about it, because I think the people that picked it up did not like it because it is an urban fantasy. And I like urban fantasies, as I've mentioned before, but this is not an urban fantasy in the sense that you think it is. I would say it's more closely related to the Crescent City series, where it's like a fantasy world, but it's also urban settings, like people watch TV, they have cell phones, they fly in planes, they drive cars, stuff like that. But it is a fantasy world, like it's not our world. The other thing is, it is very, very epic. Like, I'm talking epic, like celestial beings and demons. All these different beings find themselves stuck on one planet, and their ancient war is now resurfacing and things are happening. Our main character is she was a human named Diana, but then she made basically a deal with the devil or a demon or whatever it is called, and to save her sister's life, he basically enslaves her and uses her sister as like a tool to enslave her because she's very powerful. So she is the bad guy. And then we're following another character who is basically like Thor. Everything about him is like Thor from the Disney movies. He's very arrogant, he's very powerful, he's also kind of stupid at times, but he is very noble and has a certain sense of justice. So he is the good guy. So together, these two kind of find themselves in an unlikely alliance. So you find this book that holds a secret that could basically end the world. So they are on a race to find this book before the big bad does. And they start off as enemies and quickly develop a friendship. It's not the typical enemies to lovers where they're like, I hate this person, but man, they're hot. It's like, I hate this person. I hate this person. Okay, this person's not so bad. And then it develops on from there. I would say the first 25% of the book, they were enemies, like pure enemies. And then the rest of it is them developing this awesome friendship and awesome bond. And yeah, I love it. And the banter, so good. So because this book brought me back to my love of urban fantasies, and also it brought me to finally find a romantasy that I am obsessed about, that's why it's in my number 2 spot. My number 2 spot may surprise some people, but not a lot of people, and that is Nona the Ninth by Tenzin Mir. This is the 3rd book in the Locked Tomb series. I'm going to have to put this down because it's very shiny. So the Locked Tomb series starts with Gideon the Ninth, which is advertised as lesbian necromancers in space, which it kind of is, but it's so much more than that. Gideon the Ninth is so different from Harrow the Ninth, and Harrow the Ninth is so different from Nona the Ninth. Like, if you read them, you would not think that you were following a coherent story plot. But at the end of Nona the Ninth, it just all comes together and it makes so much sense, but at the same time, confuses the hell out of you. The reason why I love this book in particular is because it is a steampunk-inspired book following Nona, who is the most delightful, sweetest. She is like an adult version of a child, and I was obsessed with her. I was obsessed with the story. I loved everything about it. It was confusing as all hell. The found family, the characters, the humor, all of it. And then the epic ending. I really need the 4th book now. And all of those are combined. That is why Nona the Ninth is my number 1 book of 2024. So those are my top books of 2024. I cannot believe it's already 2025. What is time? If you enjoyed this video and you don't really have anything to say, you can leave a book emoji. That's always a good one. As always, you can find my socials down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day and an awesome year. Bye!